This one's a bit of a bummer to talk about because I used to really like The Skeleton Man by The Axis of Awesome, but that's the only appropriate name for this guy, is The Skeleton Man. This happened just a few months into my delivery career. I was 19 and got hired by Domino's to work at a store that had defaulted, lost its franchise status, and had been taken over by corporate. Most of the staff had been fired, and they were still trying to move more people in, so everything was always hectic. Almost every order during rush hour was late, and every driver was working 60 hours a week. This was, incidentally, my last night in that store. I was transferring to work at a store close to my college. That night, the local university had just had students move back in, so everything was extra late, and I was working open to close. When I take this guy's order out, it's alongside 3 other orders, all going to dorms, and his is the last on the list. By the time I get to him, the order is an hour and a half old. Nothing I can do about it, and the guy was warned that this could happen. I pull up and notice the entire place is dark. I should have set off my alarm bells, but I figured his lights are burnt out, or he gave up on me coming due to how late the order was. I knock, and the door opens. The first thing I notice is that the room is completely red. It's lit by a heat lamp over a cage, and the walls are painted red. There's no furniture besides the cage, which has some lizard in it. Then I notice the guy standing in front of me. If you've ever read those scary stories to tell in the dark books, you might be able to imagine what he looked like. He's clearly strung out on something. He's stick thin and there are track marks up both his arms. His skin looks yellowish even in the red light, and his eyes are bloodshot, sunken pits. His hair reminds me of the stringy dead moss you see hanging off trees in the winter. There are scabs all over his chin. His nails are grown out and thick, like yellow claws. I swallow back whatever I'm feeling at that moment and apologize for his order being late. He just stares at me. Then I tell him the price of his order. And that's when he talks. His voice sounds like gravel, and he says in a low tone which gradually gets louder with every word.
You fucking X chromosomes deny me your fucking bodies, and now my fucking food!
I say no, I have your food right here, sir. But he suddenly lurches at me, grabbing in the vicinity of my hair. I'd say he lunged, but I don't think he was capable of that much, and he missed by a wide margin. I'm not having any of that shit, so I toss the pizzas in his general direction and run back to my car. My boss even refuses to blacklist the guy and won't give me a break to slow my heart down before trying to send me out the door with another run. I walk out and never look back. I have a 4-inch scar that goes from my collarbone to my armpit. I was working at Domino's as a delivery driver during my college years. Some drivers had started to get sloppy about banking their cash between deliveries. I admit, on busy nights I did too. So customers started noticing us with big wads of bills whenever we made change. One night, I make a delivery to a trailer park. The lights on the trailer are out, so I go knock on the door to confirm they're gone before I leave. This guy with stringy long hair and a beard comes from around the back and calls me over, saying that he ordered the pizza. So I follow him out back. As soon as I turn the corner, he stabs me with a hunting knife like Norman Bates. I drop the pizza. My left arm is pretty much useless. At this point, I don't even feel it at all. Without thinking, I grab his wrist with my right hand, digging my thumb in below his palm, and smashing his forearm against the corner of the trailer, breaking it. Then I run back to my car and drive to the nearest gas station with the knife still in my shoulder, where the clerk calls an ambulance. When I get back to the hospital, the cops are there. While the doctor is inspecting my shoulder, I give the cops a brief explanation as to what happened, as well as the order slip, which had the address. Then I had to go into surgery to repair some ligaments that had been cut. The cops caught him a couple days later. The hospitals had been told to keep an eye out for him. Turns out he tried to fix it himself and it got infected. Probably hurt like hell. It was a pretty rock-solid case. They had his fingerprints on the knife. I used to work at Pizza Hut on a military base, so tips were good. I was invited in all the time to have drinks with soldiers and get hit on by slutty army wives, but generally chat and just make good money. One night I was on a roll. About 5 $10 tips in 3 hours. And it was near the end of the night, so it was just me and one other driver. I had the final delivery, so I drove off to this house, which ironically was on the other side of a fence, in the ghettos of the town right off base. I go up to the house. It's around 1 a.m. The dude, seemingly drunk, invites me in. I've played this game before. Be nice, be kind, make $5+ and bounce. Lady Luck had left me this time. The guy started talking about how his wife had been cheating on him the whole while he was gone. He was seemingly distraught, and I tried to console him. He signs his credit card receipt, and I was about to walk off when it happened. He asked me if I believed in God. I'm agnostic, so I said no, not really. Then he said that God was a fucking joke, and we better hope that he does exist and likes us. I asked why, then turned around to see that the dude has a revolver. He points it at his head and pulls the trigger, and then points it at me. The dude's playing fucking Russian roulette with our lives. I broke the screen door hauling ass and calling the MPS as I drove off. Never did find out if he succeeded in killing himself. This is not only my scariest experience, but the time I almost got my now boyfriend murdered because of a shitty sexual innuendo. I used to work at a Pizza Hut in a pretty shitty area of Tuscan. Think lots of trailer parks, crappy apartments, and shitty duplexes. Most people were on drugs and welfare, so tips were very rare. That evening, a man had ordered a large meat lover's pizza with extra sausage, and another driver took his delivery. Before the driver even came back, the man called the store complaining that his pizza was so spicy that it was inedible. While it was likely impossible that the pizza was actually spicy, this dude probably just wanted free food. We obliged and handed the driver a new pizza that he returned to take back to the man. This did not appease him. Over the span of a couple hours, the man called 2 more times, insisting that the pizza was way too spicy. We kept bringing him new pizzas, but this time we're taking back the old ones for quality checks, when really we're just tossing them in the dumpster in hopes that the guy would just give up on his scam. Finally, it gets to be about 11 p.m., with 1 hour left until closing. The man is called back once again, saying that he cannot eat his pizza and that he needs a new one. At this point, we're all starting to suspect that there's something seriously wrong with this guy, and no one wants to go out there in the middle of the night to confront him, so the manager informs him that there's, unfortunately, no way that we're able to appease him. But if he comes down to the store tomorrow, we would be happy to issue him a refund, and we think that's the end of it. I was not a closer that night, so I was cashing out at the front register when a beater truck screeches into the parking lot and parks right at the front door, and a rather disheveled and overweight man comes in holding a pizza. He puts his pizza on the counter and informs me that he's here for his refund, and I call the manager. As I'm still up front calculating my cash for the night, he opens up the box and starts talking to me.
Dude, this pizza's so fucking spicy. You gotta try this shit. It's unreal. Someone must have been putting chiltepins in the sauce or some shit.
I just awkwardly let him know that I believe him, and move out of the way so my manager can issue the refund. As this is going on, the man starts getting more agitated. He was now pushing his pizza towards the manager and repeating,
Man, you gotta try this pizza. You gotta try it. You gotta believe me, it's so spicy.
As he jabs his pointer finger into the pizza and mashing it up into a disgusting mess. The manager keeps telling him that it's fine, he believes him, but he's insistent in shoving the pizza towards my manager. Finally, the manager lets him know, No, I don't want to eat that pizza. Now I need to ask you to leave. The man then takes his pizza and walks out. During all this, the waitress, cook, and 2 other drivers had come up to the front to see what all the yelling was about. And the other driver, who I had a bit of a crush on, is standing next to me. Once the man gets into his truck and starts to pull away, I turn to him and say, Hey Kevin, wanna try my pizza? And everyone bursts out laughing. Our laughter is short-lived though, as the truck screeches to a halt and zooms back into the parking space. Now Tweaker Man is storming back into the store, seriously pissed off. He begins screaming at my fellow driver.
Do you think something is fucking funny? Am I funny? Are you fucking laughing at me? You think this pizza bullshit is fucking funny?
Everyone is dead silent now as my fellow driver is sputtering, trying to get a word in, but the man isn't having it. He climbs onto the counter and starts screaming,
I'll teach you to laugh at me. Let's fucking go outside right now. I'll fucking teach you.
For context, this man has to be about 40 to 50. My now boyfriend was 22 and spindly thin. This was frightening as fuck. My manager manages to coerce the man off the counter and get him outside, then instantly locks the door. The man screams at the door for a few seconds before retreating into his truck and pulling away. And so we think that's the end of it. Until the truck begins circling the building, and there's a fucking gun being pointed out the driver's window. Everyone immediately hits the deck, the waitress starts sobbing, and my manager is blindly reaching up, trying to grab the phone off the counter to call 911. Every once in a while we peek up, but this insane fucker is still circling. When he finally stops, everyone creeps to the back of the store and peeks out the window. The dude is parked next to the driver's cars, waiting for one of us to come out on a delivery. The dude sticks around for about 15 minutes more before taking off. The cops, of course, don't show up for another hour or so because it's freaking Tuscan and they suck. I had to sneak out before they came in hopes that I wasn't gonna get shot. The next day, the man starts repeatedly calling the store to scream at people, claim that we attacked him, and claim that we threw crushed red peppers in his eyes. Since we had his address and phone number in the system, cops finally picked him up and we didn't hear from him again. He also got himself a nice place on the do not deliver list.